Mira. Pari was a delightful host, welcoming us to her multi-level villa with its smart lines and sharp angles. Kabir and Nisha took the smallest bedroom on the second floor, since it was the only one without balcony, and the young parents were concerned about Gianna's curious nature. Vivan and I were settled on the third floor, with access to a beautiful open terrace as large as the bedroom at one's end and a smaller terrace at the back of the villa. The moment we settled in, I could see the peace enveloping my traveling companions. I could see Vivan looking at the surroundings area through a tour director's eyes, sizing up the possibilities in bringing guests to this region, and felt a surge of relief. Even though we had no idea how to regenerate Musafir after such a blow, I could see the pain abating. I only hoped that it would help me with my writing. The torment of not writing was growing into the horrible monster. It followed me around wherever I went, whispering failure. Before I left, I wrote all day and managed to produce 300 words, less than an article in a newspaper, and that took 10 hours. And I still had no idea how it was going to impact things. Even when I did finish the book, looking at the way that publishers continued to shy away from me, I might as well set things on fire. No, I told myself firmly. You don't mean that. You love writing, it will love you again. Kabir seemed to be moving with even less pain than I observed back in Pune. The salty, moist air must have been agreeing with the scars and new skin, settling a concern that Nisha had voiced to me as we were traveling to the airport that morning. What if this is a mistake? She whispered under her breath as the two men heaved the luggage out of the cab. I know the sun can be hard on his burns. Maybe we should have gone to the mountains instead. Nisha, I whispered back. Don't question yourself now. Your idea is magnificent. Look at them. I said nothing at the two men who were chatting happily. They both looked like they are breathing without their burdens for the first time in too long. And indeed they were. The energy bounced between Kabir and Vivan as they teased each other lightly, their eyes sparkling under the bright sun. That relaxed nature stayed with us throughout our arrival on the first day in Goa. Go right, Vivan said, waving me back towards my journal. I know you want to. And I did. My heart yearned for the familiar sweeping of my hand across the paper, creating images and bringing emotions to life. It was an extraordinary feeling to develop these dimensions on a flat piece of paper. I nodded to Vivan in agreement. I pictured myself curling up comfortably on one of the chairs on the large terrace. I chewed up my lip and frustration after the other left for a trek to the beach. I wanted to write. I knew the storyline that I had carefully plotted, but like a framed house with no material to finish it, my ideas were empty, echoing in my mind. No, I told myself. I'm going to get some good writing done today. The fresh sea breeze will help, determined. I jogged up to the third floor and retrieved my journal, striding out to the terrace, challenging everything that was stopping my inspiration to defy me. Plopping myself into a chair, I turned my face to the sun, breathing in the warm, salty wind coming off the sea, and stared at the blank page. I got up, wandering to the edge of the terrace and leaned my hips against the strong concrete wall, looking at the street below. Maybe something down there would tease an idea out of my mind, but not now. Sometimes words play games with you, revealing lies instead of the truth. Frustrated, I went to my chair and threw myself down. Knees up with my journal propped against them, I tried again. All attempts to write just felt flat, unnatural. What was happening to me? I had never felt writer's block just before. I thought I was one of those people who could just wade through dry, uninspired times, but hours passed and the pages in front of me remained flat, unfeeling. The words were foreign, strangers to me. How did they even come through my pen? Ugh. I growled in frustration and decided to pad downstairs to pour a cool drink. Bless Pari, she had the kitchen well stocked and insisted that we make ourselves comfortable. I'll show you where everything is once, he said. After that, if you remain hungry or thirsty, that is your responsibility. I'm actually a horrible hostess. I'm not going to scurry after you to offer a cappuccino or freshly baked scones. No, if you want something, I require you to help yourself. I loved her laid-back attitude. It made her the ideal hostess for our needs. I was sitting at the sofa, frowning at the disjointed thoughts on the journal in front of me, when Kabir and Nisha came back with the baby asleep on Nisha's shoulder. They nodded to each other meaningfully and shared a quick kiss before. Nisha tiptoed up to second level to lay Gianna down. How was the beach? I asked Kabir quietly after Nisha disappeared, her coral dress swirling around her legs. Hmm? Kabir asked, and I realized that in his mind he had followed the two up the cool steps. Perhaps it was a dress. He told me all the time it was his favorite color on his wife. I grinned. I asked how the beach was. I repeated. Oh, very beautiful, he said, his eyes still on the stairs. Was the sun too much? He shook his head. No, Nisha brought a huge umbrella with us, so I was able to sit in the shade. Oh, how she fussed over me, but I'll admit I loved every minute of it. You'd think I'd be sick of being babied by now. I grinned. I think it's called taking care of you. I clarified. It's not being babying. With a light step, Nisha descended from the second floor. Despite the heat outside, she looked fresh and content. Without even asking, Kabir handed her a tall glass of cool water. She smiled softly and stepped into his hug. And you take care of me too, Kabir. Not as much as I should have these last few years, he said, giving me a sad smile over the top of her head. Nonsense, she said, pulling back to kiss him lightly on the lips. Feeling slightly like a voyeur, I watched the two banter. It was so encouraging to see Kabir back to his old self, to see the two interacting so intimately, almost like newlyweds. With little Gianna, they were the sweetest family, taking care of each other, leaning on each other when circumstances demanded. Love will always push past adversity, and triumph, I mused. I thought about VIVAAN and what he said about going to Rajgarh Fort. He didn't even tell me, but even if he had, would I have really paid attention to the significance of that day for him? I'd been so wrapped up in my own misery of losing the book deal that I was barely giving time to his hurting the last few weeks. I knew that the drugs weren't his, but in all the time and effort he took to make sure I had absolutely believed him, did I put the same time and effort into convincing him that I did trust him? I didn't know, my mind said, but in my heart I knew the answer was no. I was so upset with what had happened to me that I didn't take the time to show him that I still trusted him, that I still believed in him, my VIVAAN. Why was I sitting in here when I should have been with him? If the roles were reversed, how would I feel, sitting on a beautiful beach by myself while he was holed up in a villa working? I was sure I would have told him I understood. And part of me probably would, but I was also convinced that deep down I would have been hurt. Was that how he felt? Some things only happen for the briefest moment, like a raindrop. You can catch it and hold it close, but if you don't reach out to capture that drop of water, you lose it forever. I needed to capture this moment and find VIVAAN. I closed my journal and went upstairs to freshen up. I put on some fresh clothing and pulled my hair up, then gazing at the person in front of me in the mirror. I put on makeup with more care than I had in a long time. One thing I had learned, don't ever stop trying to impress the one you love. Going back downstairs, I was glad to see Kabir and Nisha still there, although they were so wrapped up with each other that I had to cough to get their attention. Can you point me in the direction to where VIVAAN is on the beach? I asked. By then the two of them had settled onto the soft leather couch. Nisha's legs were tucked across Kabir's lap and they were whispering. I waited for a second and realized they hadn't even heard me. Nisha, I said loudly and giggled a little when the two jumped like two school kids caught in a forbidden embrace. They both turned to me, blushing in the soft afternoon sunlight. Did you need something? Nisha asked absently. Can you tell me where VIVAAN is? Nisha, her attention broken by Kabir's nuzzling, gave me directions. I had no idea if she even knew her left from her right at that point. She was so distracted, but Kabir didn't seem to find any fault with her instructions. Of course, I thought to myself as I slipped on my shoes to walk to the beach, he probably didn't know up from down by then either. Well, we'll be gone for several hours, I said pointedly and softly closed the door behind me, leaving the revitalized couple in peace. I didn't think they heard me leave. I was actually quite surprised to find VIVAAN as easily as I did, given that Baga Beach was a very crowded destination. In fact, when I first stepped on the sand and slipped my shoes off, I looked around disoriented by the throngs of people. But of course, he had been my true north for a very long time. All I had to do was think about him and our paths managed to cross, even on a heavily populated beach. And there he was, stretched out on a large towel under the umbrella Nisha had set up to protect Kabir's delicate skin. He seemed asleep as I approached, but when I was only a few steps away, he opened his eyes, looked directly at me, and smiled. I reached out for his steadying hand as I sat down beside him and snuggled my hip against his. Instinctively, our arms went around each other's waist. We fit so perfectly together. Falling in love means opening yourself up to someone else. It is as natural as breathing. I laid my head on his shoulder, smelling the salt and the sun on his skin. His arm ran up and down mine, and I loved feeling his strong hand caressing me. It felt so right. Love is a healing force in the world, and one cannot discount its power. It defines us, it changes us. We just have to allow it to happen. I felt Vivan's shoulder drop a little bit and I looked up, just as he was dipping his head down to brush his lips against mine. As we kissed, I felt his pain, but I also felt his love. There is only one person for everyone. That is a person that you want to laugh with, to cry with. They make scent smell sweeter, flavors dance on our tongues, and melodies in the dullest sounds. This is the one person who you want to bare your soul to, opening doors that are locked up to tied to every other person in the world. You can see your life reflected in their eyes, and it is so amazing. You never want to close your own eyes. This person makes the most insignificant moments into celebrations just with a kind word. A phone call during a stressful day, or a simple hug. The words I love you are no longer three flat, almost meaningless words, but a constant festival to mark your days together. I had met that person, and that person was sitting right beside me. We've talked about everything and nothing. No subject was too much or not enough. At that moment, it was just us together, nothing else mattered. We talked for hours about everything, my writing, his company, our early months together. When we got tired of sitting, he pulled me to my feet and we walked down the beach. Our hands laced tightly together, we smiled at the dogs stretched out on the warm sand, and then laughed as a cow wandered onto the sand, soon to be joined by a small herd. People watched them, but nobody seemed to be annoyed by seeing the large mammals on the sand. Regret isn't what we say, but in what remains unsaid. Can I tell you something? I started tentatively, not wanting to bring back the darkness in Vivan's eyes, but desperately wanted to address what he considered the failure of company. For a second, I did see the shadows returns, but they dissipated quickly as he gave me a magnificent smile. You haven't been saying enough, he teased. I thought we have been talking all afternoon. I gave him a smile back and took a deep breath. It's about your company, Vivan. I know it has been tremendously unfair and very hard on you, but I don't see it as at the end. You can run and hide from the problem, but proximity doesn't make it go away. He hummed a little. I don't know if it is or not, Mira. When I lost the company, I felt like something was ripped out of my heart. I've been feeling like such a failure. No, a victim. I looked earnestly in his eyes. Don't consider yourself a victim. Someone took advantage of you and that cost you a lot. But it didn't cost you everything. What happened challenged you. It hurt you and damaged your reputation, but you cannot give up. Your hopes and dreams may have departed from the path you expected, but they have not been denied to you. You don't think so? I don't. We need to hold on to our hopes and dreams because if we loosen our grip, they seem to take wing. But will crash to the earth if we allow them to. They did crash though, he said. Destiny doesn't make life happen one way just because we demand it to be so. When life is in pieces, we have to take those pieces to build something new. Do you really think so? I do. We are given challenges, but we are also given hope. Bad things can happen quickly, but amazing things can happen just as quickly. Today our book of life is open to a sad passage, but the page will turn and our book will become happy once more. I hope you're right, he said. I watched him smile and then frown once more. What are you thinking about, Vivan? The person who did this to me? To us? I don't know what I would ever do if I saw him again. Forgiving someone is reaching into the fire. There will be pain at first, but Then you start to heal and live again, I said. We think it is okay to be angry at another person, but that hatred is an acid, eroding our very soul. But you have to forgive yourself first. If you fail at something or didn't do something you should have done but kept putting it off, when you forgive yourself, you can truly move on. I worked so hard to start Mustafa though, he said angrily. Even time can't buff out some memories, but I have to admit I have been feeling sorry for myself. I responded gently. Self-pity is such a destructive emotion, Vivan. If you need to, give in to it. But only give it power for a few minutes. Then lock it back up and move on with your life. You can't live if you are mired down by this emotion. And what a waste that would be. Nobody wants to struggle, Vivan, but those challenges brings with them the gift of living. Give in to the pain, let it convey its lesson, and then ask it to leave. I hate pain, he grumbled. The hurt within you can be pushed away, but, like water, it is going to seep back into your heart. You need to let it fill you sometimes, so you can use it to rise to the top once more. He grinned and cupped my cheek and with his hand, "You are a wise woman." He moved to kiss me, but I had more to say. "There, in your face, I can see pain and sadness, but I also see threads of hope in your eyes, and I know they will grow stronger. How can life make me feel so fragmented while I also feel so unbroken?" "Because life does that sometimes," I whispered. "There is a time for everything, a time for pain, yes, but also a time to heal. We can't change who we were, but we can change who we are." "You love me," he said simply. "I do. And so I feel you." Love means truly feeling the same hurt that someone else feels, but it also means sharing their happiness as intimately as if it came from you. You will be happy again, Vivan. As the bright sun slept into its orange evening cloak and started its evening trek towards the horizon, we wandered to one of the restaurants, beckoning customers with lively music. I texted Nisha to let her know we would be dining out. She texted back that they were doing the same. "Do you think Pari will mind?" I asked her. "Pari's thrilled," she texted back. "She's watching Gianna." Well, that settled it. Vivan and I relaxed with our beverages and I anxiously awaited our food, which turned out to be a delicious version of Navratna Korma. I'm pretty sure I hummed happily throughout the entire meal. Maybe it was the salty air, maybe it was a different food, but I'm pretty sure my satiated feeling was because Vivan and I were once more in sync with each other. After dinner, we left the colorful lights of the beachside restaurant, following the darkness back to the mumbling surf, whispering its secrets just beyond our vision. In the cooling night air, we walked back up the beach, following shadowed landmarks until we reached our abandoned umbrella. Silently, not wanting to break the magic, we gathered our belongings. We headed back to the villa and I was content, knowing we were both literally and figuratively walking the same path together once more. And from now on, we would take each step to our future hand in hand.